Hey, friend. Today I want to talk about how wealthy donors think. Have you ever considered that wealthy, generous people, aka your major donors, see the world differently than you do? That they just think differently? Have you ever asked yourself, like, what motivates them to give? What actually makes them tick? How did they get the way that they are? These questions I found to be so fascinating, and it led me to ask a lot of questions to a lot of wealthy donors, major donors who are generous. In my search, I've been well over 1,000 major donor meetings. I don't even know how many I've had at this point. I've been raising major gifts for over 16 years. There are times where I was going on 6 meetings a week. So I don't know, you do the math. That has led me to uncover that wealthy, generous people, major donors, and potential major donors for your organization see the world in a certain way. And when I understood this, it allowed me to raise 10 times more than I was raising before in less time. And that's a huge issue, right? Is you just don't have a lot of time. So, what are the strategies that will allow you to raise more money without adding more to your schedule, without adding more to your calendar? More work on your plate is not the answer. It's not the answer. I want to just talk with you today about how do wealthy people think, people who give money to charity, and how that can help you in raising more money faster. So, the first thing is wealthy people. And when I say wealthy, let's say I'm talking about millionaires. Wealthy people see the world differently. And here's how they have a different value for time and money. They see time and money differently than the typical nonprofit leader, right? Here's part of how that works. And when I learned this, I could never stop seeing it this way. My personal background is I was raised in a household where money was a stressful topic, and there were a lot of things that weren't in the budget. And I never knew what it was to be hungry, for sure. We always had food on the table. But I did have in my early adulthood a strained relationship with money. And I had this belief that I was bad with money. And so I never really wanted to talk about money ever. And because it was a painful subject. So I viewed money as a source of stress. And then here I am needing a job, and I was working multiple jobs. I was a waitress, I worked at the Gap, I was a teacher's aide part-time. And a friend of mine was like, hey, I heard of this fundraising job at this community center in South LA. I think that you would be really good at it. Are you interested? And so I apply, I get the job, even though I fully disclose that I have absolutely no experience fundraising whatsoever. They are fine with that and agree to train me, and they keep that promise, which now, knowing what I know, is pretty rare. And I was still doing a lot of jobs that weren't my job, but I didn't really know anything different. I mean, it was my second job out of college, so my relationship now I'm in this job where it's about raising money. And my relationship with money totally shaped the way that I raised money. It shaped the way that I viewed my job. It was really uncomfortable. It was really uncomfortable for me to talk about money with people, and that was my job. That was my full-time gig. Consider this. Consider the two things that scare people the most in the whole wide world. This is across every culture, language, nationality. Public speaking and asking for money. And here I am, and I'm sprung into this job where now I am doing public speaking in groups, and I'm giving people tours, and I'm speaking at board meetings, and on Zoom calls and in front of all of these people. And I'm asking people for money. Really scary job. Which, by the way, if you are constantly uncomfortable in raising money, this video may really help you. Or, you might need to get a different job. I was talking one time with a client, one member of their team was just like, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with that. And I'm like, well, you picked the most uncomfortable job. Like, why did you pick this job? Either like, let's figure out how to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Let's figure out how to make doing hard things normal, or get a different job. Like, this is the gig, right? So my relationship with money put a huge strain on my ability to raise a lot of money. And as a result, it just every day was so stressful. I had definitely unrealistic expectations from my supervisor. That's sort of par for the course, isn't it? But I also had brought my own stress beyond doing the 17 jobs and wearing all of the hats that we like to say. I knew a little bit of HTML, so I was updating the website. What? I mean, I was an entry-level development associate, right? I was writing press releases, not my job. I was managing all of the interns. I managed over 100 volunteers. Like, and that's not even all of the fundraising stuff, right? That's not even the fundraising stuff. So going back to relationship with money. So I had a money script, a story based on my experiences, based on trauma, based on things I had been through, that money is a source of stress. That was my money script at the time. And I didn't really want to talk about it, but I definitely wanted to make a difference. I knew I wanted to work in the nonprofit space because I saw that as a direct way to help people who needed it most. And that was very interesting to me, and it still is to this day. That's really important to me. So then I learned that wealthy people think differently about money and time. And here, in some ways, it's almost diametrically opposed, which is very interesting. Wealthy people have a higher value on time than money. It doesn't mean that they don't value money. They value time above money. Money's still a value. And nonprofits often see money as really precious because they feel that they don't have enough of it, and often they don't. They're always trying to raise more money, right? Nonprofits are always raising more and more and more and more. And the goal continually increases year after year. Every fiscal year, it's rare that it's a flat goal, right? So we perceive as nonprofits, we perceive that we have so much time, we have infinite amount of time, but we just don't have enough money. And so we will actually waste time and not realize we're wasting time and be really inefficient and do busy work and feel productive, but make very little progress in raising money. And part of why that is because we have poor boundaries. We have a lack of standards. I know this might be an ouchie, but I personally had to learn this. And when you have clear standards, when you're really principled and you're clear on what your purpose is, which is raising money to create an impact, then it's very obvious what you need to say no to. Now, it takes courage to do that. It takes guts to say no to things, and you'll have to do it over and over again. I have another video where I walk you through how I raised $2.5 million without a gala and with a whole lot of boundaries. And I'll link that video here. And there's a whole section of things that I say no to. There are a lot of things I say no to in order to raise $2.5 million from individuals and family foundations. But when you're really wealthy, right, wealthy people are less likely to give in to obligation because why? Why do they need to? They don't have to do something because they need money. They have money. And they see time as the most precious thing because time is a non renewable resource. Time is something that they know they cannot get back. Wealthy people invest their money. And I'll talk about investments and liabilities in a minute. That's going to be really helpful as well. They see time as a non renewable resource because time you can't get back. If you spend your time doing something, that time is gone. And the economy of time is if I'm spending time with you, recording this YouTube video, then that means that I'm saying no to everything else I could be doing with my time right now. If a major donor chooses to meet with you, that is time they are not spending with their children, that they will never get back. If they choose to read your long email and respond to it, that is time that they will not get back on spending on vacation, working and earning more money, relaxing, reading a book, investing in their own development and skills, going to church, working out, whatever it is that they want to do. I got my sparkling water with lime here. And so time is seen as the most valuable, the most precious resource. And if we rewind to young, early 20s Julie, I was so intimidated to talk to people about money, but I was really cavalier about asking people for their time. It was much easier for me to recruit a volunteer because I perceived that what they were doing was free. And wealthy people, your major donors, do not think like that. Volunteering is not free. It is extremely costly because, again, you cannot renew time. If you lose money, if you spend money, a wealthy person, their money is being invested. So it's constantly growing. Wealth is not a finite pie. It is an ever-expanding universe. And it's more like a roller coaster within an ever-expanding universe. I have a couple of courses on what wealth is and how to raise 10 times more from your donor's wealth. And I'll link that training here. It's called Six Figure Gifts Bootcamp. So it's not a finite pie, but time is actually a finite pie, not money. This is from the wealthy person's perspective. So when a fundraiser executive director is asking for a meeting, you're asking for a piece of the pie that they can't get back. But when you're asking for money, it's not a piece of the pie. It's their wealth is constantly growing. And they know that even if they lost their wealth, that they could create it again because they already created it once or twice or 10 times, however wealthy they might be. When I understood this, I adopted this mindset and it allowed me to confidently ask people for money, even without asking for their time. And it changed my own value of my own time. Like I became more intentional and deliberate, and I raised my standards on who and what I would say yes to because I realized that time I can't get back. It's gone. However I spent it is how I spent it. And I think part of the belief is that we think we have so much time. Nonprofits think, well, I've got a ton of time. I don't have enough money. So let me just continually invest my time and put more time and more effort into something because that's what I have a lot of. And the truth is that none of us know how much time we have. Tomorrow is not promised. Life is short. It's precious. This is our one life. Today is all we have. Tomorrow isn't actually It's in our imagination. We have what we've lived through and we have today. Of course, we make our plans, but that's all on faith. It's on faith that we'll be here in a year from now. And you never know how much time anyone has. And it's actually presumptuous, right? It's a bit presumptuous to think that you have all the time in the world. We just don't know. It's a really humbling thought to consider that life is short. And when you have that in mind, when that is your value system, and you understand that when you're asking for a donor's time, that you're asking for something that's so precious, then the way that you write emails changes. You get to the point. The way that you ask for a meeting, you change the way that you communicate. When you are in the meeting, you change how you show up in the meeting. You're more filled with gratitude because this person gave you their time. I would send major donors thank you notes after they met with me because it was as if they gave the greatest gift that they can give, which is their time. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is time that you could have spent with your kids, but you spent an hour with me. Wow, thank you so much. When you understand that time is so precious and that money is like it's an ever expanding universe roller coaster. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. And for the wealthy person, it's an ever expanding universe in the sense that it is growing. It isn't a pie and you're asking for a slice. Then what you ask for changes. The way that you ask changes. Your timing changes. Your attitude changes. You become more grateful when people are responding, when people are meeting with you. And that gratitude, that energy translates to your donor. They understand that you view them as a whole human being and not just there to write a check. Thinking like this will give you permission to put a premium on your own time. And that changed things for me because I set up so many clear boundaries and I stopped wasting my time in many ways. And I didn't even realize that I was doing it. It's so easy to waste time. Like our society is designed for us to be addicted to wasting time. We have computers in our hands with endless, literally endless options to scroll, to watch, to consume. And a lot of it is like meaningless, right? I'm like, so the fact that you're getting any meetings at all is huge. Even if you're frustrated that you wish you could get more meetings, which by the way, I have a free training on how to get more donor meetings. It's my most popular training. I will link that here so that you can watch it if you haven't already. It'll teach you how to write better emails so that you stop getting ghosted. So we can end that nightmare like basically today. So I learned the different value system that wealthy people, major donors put on time and money. And again, it's not to say that they don't value money. It's that they value it in different relation to time. Time is the most valuable. And it changes everything. It changes the way that you think about your work. Number 2, for the way that wealthy, generous people, major donors think, is they think about investments versus liabilities in a different way. In the nonprofit space, it's really, really difficult for nonprofits to make investments. What I mean by investments is when you put money into something, or you put time into something, or both, and that doing that allows what you put in to grow over time. So that's an investment, something that grows in value over time. So let's say, if you could take the typical buying stock in a company. Let's say you bought stock in Nike. You could buy 5 shares, and let's say it costs $1,000 each share when you buy it. Over the course of time, Nike's a great stock to own. It's going to increase in value. Those same 5 shares are going to increase in value over the course of years. So in 10 years from now, instead of each of those 5 shares being worth $1,000, which is the money that you put in, that you invested, $5,000, now it may be worth $55,000. So the same 5 shares are now worth so much more, exponentially more, as a result of you investing back then. So investments appreciate in value over the course of time, and liabilities don't. So liabilities are things that you can own that depreciate, that are basically like sinking in value over time. A perfect example of a liability, I would say 9.999% of the time, is a car, purchasing a car, right? We know this. When you go buy a car, new or used, you drive it off the lot and it's already worth half of what you paid for, right? Cars are liabilities. I guess unless you were buying maybe a Rolls Royce or some kind of, I don't know, maybe those appreciate over time. I don't know. Maybe one of you will tell me. Cars are liabilities. So a liability is just something that decreases in value over time. The way that wealthy people think about how to invest is they will think about their skills differently. They'll think about their time differently, and they'll think about owning assets, things that appreciate, that are they can invest in, and they know that the value will grow. And nonprofits often struggle with this concept of, okay, if I invest money to learn a new skill, then that's going to allow me to grow my results, whatever results I want, so much faster. But you've got to buy in, right? If you want to win the jackpot when you play poker, you've got to buy in and put your initial stake on the table. The same thing with an investment. If you want to have the return on the long-term appreciated value of something, you've got to purchase the investment up front for it to grow over time. And wealthy people understand this. There is a distinction between an investment and a liability, between an asset and a liability. And investments grow, liabilities shrink in value. And I think that the nonprofit sector, and this was definitely my point of view, that it's almost as if nonprofits don't see any investments. Like they're all liabilities. Anything that you could possibly put time or money into is perceived as a liability. For example, right? One investment is buying a course or getting a coach or going to school or getting some kind of training or taking a class. That's an investment in you, and you're the best investment that there is. In your life, the best investment is you and your character and your skills and your development. That will pay dividends in the long run. So I know this personally. I have invested a lot into my own personal and professional growth. A lot. I'm not even going to tell you how much, but it's a lot. More than I'm comfortable saying. And some of my investments actually weren't great choices. I picked some people to learn from who did not turn out to be who I thought they were going to be. And some people, it paid off big time. There are certain books that completely changed my life. It was an investment of $20 buying the book, and an investment of 8 hours reading it. And that time and money paid so much in the long term. So that would be one example, right? It's almost as if nonprofits see everything that you have to pay for with money or time as a liability. And I was this way. I'm like, oh, we can't spend that money. We can't spend that time. We don't have it. When if you were able to invest time and money into something, knowing that it's going to appreciate and value and pay way outsized returns, a wealthy person is going to make that choice. And again, investing in you is the best investment that there is. Even better than investing in the stock market, even better than buying shares in another company. You are the best investment. Your personal growth is so important. So wealthy people think about it that way. And so as a result of investing, they have assets that appreciate over time, which makes them wealthy. So they invested in a business, and then it turned out that that business has grown in value over time. And now they only put in 100 grand into that business and it's worth 2 million. So this is how wealthy people think. They will pay the upfront cost of time and money because they know that in the long run, it's going to pay off. It's going to be worth way more than what the original cost was. Nonprofits think in many ways that every cost is an expense, not an investment. And when you understand that wealthy people think this way, that they think about making investments, that they see your organization as an investment in impact. So if a wealthy person, a major donor, gives your organization 10 grand, the investment is, I'm going to give 10 grand, but the impact is going to be outsized returns. It's going to be more valuable than 10K, than the original $10,000 that they invested. This could look like a number of lives changed. This could look like the impact that it has long term on your community. This could look like many different ways, however you measure impact. And that's how major donors think. That's how wealthy people think. They're thinking about making investments. They want to see something work long term. They want to see something grow in value. And if they give you this much money, will you be able to create an outsized return with that same money that they gave? Because this is how they think about how they invest their time and money. They want something that's, if you give 10 grand, then it's not just going to have a 1-to-1 return. So this is altogether different from the way that I used to think, the way that many nonprofit leaders think, that sometimes, right, and an example of an investment from a nonprofit perspective, it would be hiring a person to do a job and getting that person training. Those are investments. They will have an outsized return. So if you hire a director of development, let's say for $110,000 in salary, and you invest in their training and in their development and mentorship and learning how to do their job really well, then me, for example, right, I raised $2.5 million in a year. So what's the math on that? So that's 2,000% growth. If you had invested that money in the stock market and got 2,000% growth, I mean, wouldn't you be overjoyed? This is what I'm talking about. Investments are things that will grow and create value long term beyond what you originally invested in, what it originally cost you. So being good at major gifts, fundraising, costs you. It costs you time and money. if you make the right investment, then you will create outsized returns. It's the same thing with what would be an example of a liability? A liability for a nonprofit would be paying rent for an office. That is not an investment. It's not going to grow. It is something that you don't own. It's not an asset. So renting a building is a liability. It's not to say that it's a bad thing and you shouldn't rent a building. I don't know. Only you can decide that. But my point is that it's not something that will appreciate in value over time because you don't own it, first of all. And second of all, it's just a bill that you pay. So that's a liability. If you are paying a car payment, for example, personally, that would be a liability. It's not an investment. Another investment that's really important is investing in your character. When you do difficult things and you continually show up, when you fail and you get back up again, you are investing in your resilience. Resilience is like the number one skill that fundraisers need right now. And wealthy people think about investing in themselves and investing in things that are going to grow over time. And when you consider that and think about how that's part of how they became wealthy and how they've stayed wealthy, that they've made investments, that changes the way that you think about money and how you might be able to create leverage. You might be able to create opportunity where it's not one for one. Okay, I put in an hour and I get this much back. But you learn and upfront, you pay the cost upfront, and long term, the value is so much higher than what you originally put in. And there is an upfront cost to something that is going to pay off long run. And this is something that I think a lot of nonprofits struggle with, is we see the upfront cost and we're not able to calculate the long-term return. The way in which, is this really an investment? Is it an expense or is it an investment? The best way to know if you're going to raise more money in the future is if you invest in your skills now. And later, putting something off is like getting a no with interest. It's like a debt that you will eventually have to pay. And it accrues interest because time is precious. And we don't know if we're actually going to get a chance later, right? So valuing time and money differently, thinking about investments versus liabilities, assets versus liabilities, allowed me to put myself in the donor's shoes and think about what I was proposing and how they view the world. Their worldview helped me to connect more easily, helped me to practice empathy, helped me to increase my emotional intelligence, and to really get even better results than I was getting before, because I was coming from my point of view. I was coming from my default mode of how I was raised, the experiences that I had, which of course is human, right? But we're empathetic beings. We love people. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you love people. I do too. And I want to help others. And I want to be able to connect with people. People is my purpose. They're why I'm here. And understanding these principles really allowed me to improve so fast in fundraising when I changed the way that I thought about time and money, when I changed the way that I thought about investments versus expenses, and when I saw that my own skills, my own character was the best investment that I'll ever make, and that it paid dividends in terms of my own fulfillment, in having healthier relationships, in creating a bigger impact in my community and in my sphere of influence. So I hope that that encourages you to make investments in yourself and in your team and in the growth that you envision. Your vision is powerful and it is worth millions. Happy fundraising.